Last August, we pulled more clean, crack-free tomatoes off one raised bed than we had grown in the previous 3 summers combined. The skins were smooth, the leaves were dark green, and standing tall well into September, and we did not lose a single fruit to pests the entire season. The only thing we changed was a single plastic bottle that cost us less than $1. Here is what surprised us. This bottle does not work the way we expected. It is not just a bug trap. What nobody knew at the time was that this method creates something closer to an invisible wall around your tomatoes. The pests do not just drown inside the bottle. They cannot even find your plants anymore. Their navigation shuts down completely. We did not learn this from a garden magazine or some internet trend. We learned it from an Amish woman in Adams County, Indiana, who had been keeping her orchard pest-free since the 1970s, using nothing but a spare soda bottle and 3 ingredients from her kitchen. And the science behind why it works has been confirmed by universities in England, Iran, India, and the United States. Now we are going to show you exactly how to build this step by step, every measurement, every ingredient, but the story of where it came from matters because it is the difference between a bottle that catches a few gnats and one that clears your entire patch. So stick with us through the origin because everything you need for building yours comes directly out of that story. By the end of this video, we are also going to show you 3 upgrades that turn one bottle into a complete defense system that works around the clock while you sleep. Stay with us because the last upgrade has been documented by researchers for over 100 years, and almost nobody in the home gardening world ever mentions it. Now let us get into where this bottle method actually came from. The story behind it matters more than you might think. It was the early 2000s, and a newspaper columnist named Kevin Williams was visiting Amish farms in Adams County, Indiana, for his column called The Amish Cook. One afternoon, he walked onto a property and noticed something strange hanging from the lowest branches of the fruit trees. Green 2-liter soda bottles, dozens of them dangling from twine, scattered across the orchard and along the garden rows. He thought it was some kind of decoration at first. When he asked an Amish woman on the farm about them, she told him plainly that they were bug traps. She had been hanging them every spring since her children were small. She said, "Once the insects go in, they are done for." She did not elaborate. She did not try to sell him on the idea. Just a fact stated the same way she might tell you it was going to rain tomorrow. Williams started documenting these traps across multiple Amish farms in the region. The bottles were almost always green, like 7-Up or Sprite bottles, so they would blend in with the foliage. Inside was a simple mixture of sugar, vinegar, and banana peels with water filled about halfway up. The cap was left off so the scent could travel on the breeze. He later described them as the Hotel California for bugs. They check in, but they never leave. Now, here is the detail that changed our thinking entirely. The Amish do not have air conditioning. They live with open windows and open doors through the Indiana summer. If anyone on Earth has been forced to figure out how to keep insects under control without chemicals, it is them. It is a community that has been farming the same land for over 200 years, with no pesticide budget and no screens on their windows. This was not a hobby project for them. This was survival. What they figured out through generations of trial and error lines up almost perfectly with what university researchers have been proving in their laboratories over the last 10 years. That alignment between tradition and science is why this method deserves a close look. Now here is a quick look at what goes into the bottle so you know exactly where we are headed. Vinegar, sugar, banana peels, crushed garlic, and cayenne pepper. 5 ingredients from your kitchen. That is the whole recipe. We will walk through every measurement and every step in just a few minutes. Each one of those 5 ingredients is in there for a specific reason, backed by real science. Once you understand what you're actually fighting in your garden, you will see exactly why each ingredient matters and why leaving any of them out means the bottle only does half the job. So, let us talk about the enemy, because the pests on your tomato plants are far more dangerous than they look. If you have been losing tomatoes to bugs for years, and nothing you have tried seems to stick, we want you to hear something clearly. You are not doing anything wrong. You have not failed. You are just fighting with the wrong weapon. Nobody ever showed you how these pests actually operate. Once you see their one weakness, the fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Let us start with aphids because they are the silent destroyers of more home tomato patches than any other pest in America. A single green aphid sitting on your tomato leaf looks like nothing. It is smaller than a grain of rice. You might walk right past it, but here is what makes this tiny insect one of the most effective breeding machines in the natural world. Female aphids do not need males to reproduce. They clone themselves through a process called parthenogenesis. One female produces between 50 and 100 identical daughters, and every single one of those daughters is born already carrying the next generation developing inside her body. Scientists call this telescoping generations. The mother is pregnant. Her daughters are pregnant before they are even born. In ideal summer conditions, one single aphid can give rise to billions of descendants in a single growing season. Billions. From one bug. They have been perfecting this system for over 160 million years. That is longer than most dinosaurs walk the earth. And that is just the aphids. Wait until you hear what else is happening on your plants. Whiteflies breed just as fast. The University of Florida documented that a female whitefly lays eggs on young tomato leaves that can hatch into breeding adults in just 14 days. 2 weeks from egg to full reproduction, they suck the sap right out of your plant, weaken the stems, and transmit viral diseases that cannot be cured once they take hold. You will know them by the little cloud of white specks that puffs up when you brush past a leaf in the morning. Each one of those specks is draining your plant. But here is the detail that most pest control advice completely misses, and it is the reason our bottle works where sprays fail. When an aphid colony gets crowded on a plant, something remarkable happens. Some of the aphids grow wings. These winged migrants fly off the crowded plant and land on a new one to start a fresh colony. Those flying scouts are the only way aphids spread from plant to plant in your garden. The Amish bottle catches those scouts. That is the real mechanism. You are not trapping every bug in the county. You are intercepting the reinforcements before they can land. Without new colonizers arriving, the existing population on your tomatoes gets picked off by ladybugs, lacewings, and parasitic wasps within 4 to 7 days. The colony collapses on its own. You did not kill the army. You cut the supply line, and the army starved. This is why the vinegar and banana peels in our recipe matter so much. The fermentation scent from those two ingredients is what pulls those winged scouts into the bottle before they ever reach your plants. Compare that to chemical sprays. When you spray a broad-spectrum insecticide, you kill the aphids. Yes, but you also kill the ladybugs and lacewings that were eating them for free. 2 weeks later, the spray wears off. The aphids fly back in from your neighbor's yard, and now there are zero natural predators left to slow them down. That is what Clemson University calls the pesticide treadmill. The more you spray, the more you need to spray. And the average home gardener burns through $50 to $150 a season on products that make the problem worse over time. This is exactly why the garlic in our bottle changes everything. It does not just catch bugs, it makes your plants invisible to them, and it does not cost you a penny more than what is already sitting in your kitchen. So now let us build this bottle. We are going to build the upgraded version, not just the basic trap. If you just fill a bottle with sugar water and hang it in your garden, you will catch a few gnats and maybe a fruit fly or two. That is what every other tutorial on the internet tells you to do. It barely makes a dent in a real pest problem. Here is the recipe that actually works. Start with an empty 2-liter plastic bottle. Any brand works, but if you can find a green one, use it. The Amish use green for a reason. It blends into the garden, so you are not staring at ugly plastic all summer. Clear bottles work fine too. Into the bottle, add 1 cup of apple cider vinegar. Apple cider works better than white because the fermentation scent is stronger. Bugs associated with rotting fruit, their favorite food source. Add 1 cup of regular granulated sugar. The sugar provides a sweet scent that draws insects in from a distance. Then stuff in 2 or 3 banana peels, separated and rolled tight so they fit through the neck. The banana peels are the ingredient that almost nobody thinks to include. As they break down, they release natural esters and volatile compounds that mimic insect pheromones. That means the bugs are not just smelling something sweet, they are smelling what their own biology tells them is a mate or a food source. Fill the bottle about halfway with warm water and give it a gentle swirl to dissolve the sugar. Remember, this is the apple cider base. That is the base recipe, and on its own it has been catching pests on Indiana farms for decades. But what we're about to add to it is what turns a simple trap into something the insects cannot fight. Crush 3 to 4 cloves of fresh garlic. Do not mince them fine. Just smash them with the flat side of a knife so the allicin starts releasing, and drop the pieces into the bottle. Add about half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Shake it one more time. Leave the cap off so the scent can drift. Tie twine or garden string around the bottleneck and hang it from your tomato cage, a wooden stake, or any support structure near your plants. Position it at the height of the top of the foliage or just above. You want the opening exposed to airflow so the fermentation gases carry on the breeze. The garlic and cayenne turn this into a defense the pests avoid. One bottle covers roughly a 4 to 6 foot radius. For a standard raised bed, 2 bottles at opposite ends will handle the whole thing. For a longer row, space them about 6 feet apart. Now here is what happens over the next 7 days. The vinegar, sugar, and banana peels begin fermenting in the sun. That fermentation produces acetic acid gases and esters that mimic the smell of decaying fruit. Flying insects follow that scent trail into the bottle and drown. That is the trap layer. It starts working within the first 24 to 48 hours. But here is the force field layer that nobody talks about. The crushed garlic releases sulfur compounds, specifically allicin, the same chemical that makes your eyes water when you chop an onion. Researchers at the University of Tehran published findings in the journal Crop Protection showing that allicin disrupts the sensory receptors insects use to locate their host plants. In plain language, the garlic fumes scramble the bug's ability to smell your tomatoes. The plant becomes invisible to them. They fly right past your garden and land on someone else's. The cayenne pepper adds capsaicin vapor on top of that. It repels both insects and larger pests like rabbits and deer. So one bottle is now doing 3 jobs at once: trapping the bugs that come in close, scrambling the navigation of bugs approaching from a distance, and pushing away mammals and larger crawlers through the capsaicin burn. And this bottle does not just handle aphids and whiteflies. The fermentation scent also draws in tomato hornworm moths before they can lay eggs on your leaves. Those moths are the parents of the 3 to 4 and green caterpillars that can strip an entire branch overnight. It pulls in fruit flies that swarm your ripening tomatoes and stink bugs that puncture green fruit. Even flea beetles, the ones that riddle your seedling leaves with tiny shotgun holes, get caught in the scent trail. The trap stays effective for about 2 to 3 weeks before the liquid gets saturated. When it starts looking dark and thick, cap it, toss the whole bottle, and hang a fresh one. You will go through maybe 4 or 5 bottles across an entire growing season. Total cost for the summer is still under $1. Now, what we just showed you with pest control is one piece of a much bigger picture, because if you can protect your tomatoes for under $1, imagine what else you could be saving on. We put together something called the $0 Harvest Blueprint, and it is completely free. Inside, you will find 7 fertilizers that cost absolutely nothing, made from things you are probably throwing in the trash right now. And they flat out outperform the $30 bags at the garden center. It also covers the lazy no-dig method that eliminates weeding permanently, which alone is worth the 2 minutes it takes to grab this. One of our readers used the fertilizer trick from page 12, and his tomato bed produced twice as much as his neighbor's that same season. The neighbor was still buying the expensive stuff. To get instant access to the blueprint and a weekly forgotten gardening hack delivered straight to you, click the first link in the description below, or scan the QR code on the screen right now. If you are watching on TV, just open your camera app on your phone and then hold it against the screen. A yellow button should pop out. It takes 10 seconds and it is free. All right, let us keep going because we are not done yet. Now, before we show you the 3 upgrades, let us cover the 4 mistakes that nearly every home gardener makes with pest control. The first mistake is waiting until you see damage. By the time leaves are curling, the colony has been breeding for weeks. Hang your bottle as soon as you transplant. Prevention beats reaction every time. The second mistake is spraying leaves with a hose. A hard blast knocks aphids off temporarily, but they crawl right back. And now you have wet leaves inviting fungal diseases like early blight. Wet tomato leaves in July will kill a plant faster than any bug. The third mistake is killing everything that moves. Broad-spectrum sprays wipe out the ladybugs and lacewings that were doing free pest control. Kill your allies and you are fighting alone. The fourth mistake is giving up after one method fails. Pest control is a system, not a single fix. The bottle does heavy lifting on its own, but what we are about to show you next is what takes results from good to great. We started using this bottle system 3 seasons ago. Before that, we lost a third to a half of our cherry tomatoes every summer. Split skins from aphid stress, black mold coating the fruit, and leaves curling so badly by August that the plants looked like they were giving up. We had tried neem sprays, insecticidal soap, diatomaceous earth, aluminum pie tins on stakes, and garlic cloves between the rows. Some of it helped a little, but none of it solved the problem. The first summer we hung 2 bottles in our raised bed, one at each end. The difference showed up within 5 days. The aphid clusters stopped growing. The little white clouds of white flies that used to puff off the undersides of every leaf went silent. By day 7, we could not find a single pest in the spots where they normally camp out. By mid-August, our plants were still producing clean, unblemished tomatoes, while our neighbor's patch across the fence was covered in the same sticky black mess we used to deal with every year. The following summer, we saw the same results. By the 3rd year, we added the upgrades we are about to show you, and that was the season everything changed. We stopped thinking about pests entirely. They were not a problem we managed anymore. They were just gone. The harvest from those plants was the best we have ever pulled. More fruit per plant than we could give away. 3 seasons in, and we have not reached for a spray bottle once. The 3rd year when we added these upgrades is when the results went from good to something we genuinely could not believe. Here is what we added. Like and subscribe if this is useful, because we cover a new forgotten gardening method every single week. Now let us talk about the 3 upgrades that take this from working well to working so well, you will forget pests were ever a problem, because the title promised you 1 bottle, and we intend to give you far more than that. Upgrade number 1 is the soil drench. Remember that garlic and cayenne water you mixed for the bottle? Make a second batch using the same ingredients, but leave out the vinegar and banana peels. Use just crushed garlic, cayenne, a drop of dish soap, and water. Pour it slowly around the base of your tomato plants, soaking the root zone. The dish soap helps the solution penetrate the soil instead of beating up on the surface. Here is why this matters. When garlic compounds are absorbed through the root system, the plant itself becomes repellent from the inside out. Any aphid or whitefly that bites into a stem or leaf gets a mouthful of allicin and stops feeding immediately. If you want to take it one step further, add a teaspoon of cold-pressed neem oil to the drench. Neem is a natural pesticide that has been used for centuries, and when it is absorbed through the roots, it becomes systemic, meaning the entire plant carries the compound in its sap. Insects that feed on a neem-treated plant stop eating, stop reproducing, and eventually die. The plant is essentially vaccinated against chewing and sucking insects for 5 to 7 days per application. 1 recipe, 2 delivery methods. The bottle handles the air. The soil drench handles anything that tries to feed directly on the plant. Reapply every week or after a heavy rain. That soil drench covers everything that touches the plant. But there is still 1 gap in the defense, and the fix for it goes all the way back to a study from 1921. Upgrade number 2 is the yellow paint trick. In 1921, a researcher named Lloyd published one of the earliest scientific studies showing that flying insects, especially whiteflies and aphids, are strongly drawn to the color yellow. They mistake yellow surfaces for the biggest, juiciest leaf in the garden. More than a century of research has backed this up, including a 2024 field trial published in the International Journal of Tropical Insect Science that showed yellow traps mass-captured whiteflies and aphids on tomato crops in open field conditions. Take your bottle and wrap a strip of yellow tape, yellow paper, or even a coat of yellow paint around the upper third. You have just added a visual lure on top of the chemical lure. Insects see the yellow from 30 ft away, fly toward it thinking it is a leaf, hit the scent cloud of fermentation and garlic, and funnel straight into the bottle opening. It is a trap inside a trap. The science behind it is over 100 years old, and it still works because insect biology has not changed one bit. Upgrade number 3 is the companion planting ring. This is the one that handles what the bugs can smell and it seals the last gap in the perimeter. In 2019, researchers at Newcastle University in England published a study in the journal PLOS One that finally proved what gardeners have believed for generations. French marigolds repel tomato whiteflies. The team identified the specific chemical responsible. It is called limonene. Marigolds release limonene continuously from their leaves and flowers throughout the growing season. Limonene slows whiteflies down and repels them from the area entirely. What made the study even more interesting was that when the team replaced some marigolds with basil and nasturtiums, whitefly numbers still dropped. The researchers called this associational resistance. The pest gets confused by so many competing plant scents that it gives up trying to find the tomato. A separate 2024 study in Plant Cell Reports confirmed that basil planted beside tomatoes helps the plant recover faster from leaf damage. Plant a ring of French marigolds around your tomato bed. Tuck 3 or 4 basil plants between the cages. Now you have 3 layers working together. The bottle handles the air, the soil drench handles the roots, the companion ring handles the perimeter. All under $1, all working around the clock without you lifting a finger. Think about what we just built. A reused soda bottle, 4 garlic cloves, a pinch of cayenne, a couple of banana peels, a few marigold seedlings from a $2 flat, and a strip of yellow tape from the junk drawer. That is your entire pest defense for the season. Compare that to $50, $80, $150 a year that gardeners pour into sprays that wear off in 2 weeks and leave residue on your family's food. Now imagine walking out to your tomato patch next August. The leaves are dark green and standing tall. The fruit is clean and heavy on the vine. The aphids that used to cover every stem by midsummer cannot find you anymore. Their scouts drowned in a green soda bottle before they ever landed. The whiteflies that used to breed under every leaf moved onto a garden that does not smell like garlic and cayenne. And the ladybugs you never killed with chemicals are still out there every evening patrolling your rows for free. That is not wishful thinking. That is what happens when you stop fighting pests with poison and start outsmarting them with a dollar bottle and a handful of kitchen scraps. The Amish woman who showed this to Kevin Williams in Adams County all those years ago did not have a YouTube channel or a product to sell. She just had 200 years of quiet community wisdom and a spare green soda bottle hanging from a branch in her orchard. Now you have it too. If you got something out of this, share it with someone you know who has been losing their tomatoes to bugs all summer. This might be the one thing that finally turns their garden around. And if you want to see what happens when we apply the same kind of forgotten, low-cost thinking to the soil itself, we just covered a method from the 1940s that turns dead, tired dirt into dark, rich growing soil in one single season without buying a bag of compost. That video's on screen right now. If this story changed the way you look at the simple tools in your garden, please subscribe and like the channel. We are uncovering the history and wisdom that they tried to bury. Let's grow the future together. The next treasure will be revealed soon.